participants are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Tracy Fitzpatrick, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at NetCom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We're very excited to host today's webinar, Battle of Clouds, AWS versus Azure. And presenting today's topic is Julio Cruz. Julio is a Microsoft certified trainer with over 16 years of experience in the IT field. He has been a Microsoft community leader for 7 years, a university professor for 6, and a Microsoft certified trainer for nearly 4 years. He's taught and conducted seminars on customer relationship management, project management, software quality assurance, and many more. Now, please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We do offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored towards your specific requirements. If you are interested in a further discussion, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at netcomlearning.com. Today's session is also being recorded, so you will get free access to the recording in the next 24 hours via email. And now I'd like to share some insights about NetCom Learning. NetCom Learning helps customers build innovative learning organizations by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. We do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we've been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. We do have 9 practice areas in which we specialize. They encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the cloud practice area. NetCom Learning does offer a comprehensive training portfolio for networking courses. And here's a list of our upcoming classes on our public schedule. AWS Business Essentials scheduled for April 27th. AWS Technical Essentials also on April 30th. Architecting on AWS is scheduled for May 14th, and Developing on AWS also on May 14th. We are offering Data Warehousing on AWS on May 21st, and 20532 Developing Microsoft Azure Solutions class being scheduled on April 9th. And finally, Microsoft Azure Fundamentals, which will be held on April the 9th. So why should you attend today's webinar? NetCom Learning presents an important installment in its Battle of Clouds, AWS versus Azure. In this webinar, we will review the whole portfolio of cloud certifications, helping to understand which one might be right for you and tell you what you need to know in order to get started. The webinar not only introduces you to cloud certifications, but also provides you with a special lab demo. And now I'd like to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To begin with, you do have the option to adjust the window size to your liking. Simply hit the escape key and find the zoom button on the top left corner of your GoToWebinar viewer. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters. Please feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. A PDF copy of today's slides are also in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. And now I would like to pass this over to Julio, who will be presenting today's topic. Julio, go ahead, you're live.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Just let me get it there. There we are. Okay, I think my screen is coming up. Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon there. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julio Cruz. We're going to cover a Battle of Clouds today. We're going to talk an hour about slight differences between AWS and Azure, basic fundamentals about both of them. So as Tracy was mentioning, we can have a little bit of an understanding to get to know which one might be suitable for our needs. Okay, so as I was mentioning, and as Tracy was introducing myself, I've been working in the IT field for the last 18 years. So I've been playing around a lot with different technologies. I started as a tester, developer, DBA, manager, senior delivery manager, and well, I'm also been part of the Microsoft experience for the last 7 years. I've been working as a professor, I've been working as a consultant, as an independent consultant, as a trainer, and I have some certification in most of the common technologies around Microsoft. Okay, so please, as Tracy said, feel free to ask anything you want in the question section. I'll be more than glad to help you out once we're done with our official content. Okay, so let me get started here so we can keep track of our content. The first thing we have here, we're going to talk about Azure and AWS as a comparison. Okay, we will see at the middle of the content a little bit of comparison tables. We will have an explicit overview of the difference between each other, but I would like to introduce a little bit about the content and the objects that we can handle in Azure and AWS. First of all, resources. Okay, when we talk about resources, on one hand, in AWS, we have third-party resources that we can provide through different type of technologies, okay? We can use Amazon services, we can use customized third-party services or line of business services. We don't have a proper repository that we can use on first hand. On the other hand, here on Azure, as you can see on this screen, we're gonna come back to this screen later, we have for developers, for operations, and for DBA. We have complete support on the back from different type of accesses. We have GitHub, we have MSDN, and we have a lot of different options there as third-party solutions. I'll come back here and I'll show you a little bit about these options when we get into that. So the features at a glance. When we talk about Azure first, okay, we're gonna start with Azure. The objects we have. The first thing that you need to know about is Azure has, up to the last count that we had on February, 197 services, okay? That means that you can go from a virtual machine, from a host service, from an application service, up to an streaming, an encoding, an encrypting, a vaulting service, okay? We have 197, combined in different type of objects. We will see a little bit of those in the comparison between the platforms while we discuss about the difference between each other. So the catalog is being updated every month. We can find some new stuff. We can find some stuff being deprecated. It's important for both of the platforms that we keep track of those changes. Okay, those are the features we have. Now, let's get into the actual start of the difference between each other. Regions. When we talk about region, guys, we're talking about the location, the physical data center where our data and our objects will be hosted. Okay, Azure. Well, we got 29 by the end of January. We got a new one that it's now available in the States. So as you can see here on this map, we have a lot of different options to use. Why this is important? Think about we're hosting our business in the States, but we want to have access from Europe, from UK, okay? Our field operations team is hosting the UK. Great. We can subscribe in here and we can create the access in here. Okay, that's the idea of the regions. That's how it works. We have total compatibility between each other and a lot of different combinations to work with the zones. We'll discuss a little bit further on this, but it's important we know that we have 30 regions in here. When we talk about Amazon, you can see here we have 12 global regions. Okay, one and another. It might seem like a lot of difference there. It's not, okay? Azure, for example, just to keep it simple, in the States we have 6 in Azure. In the States we have 5 on Amazon, okay? Why we have a difference there? Because we have 2 near California in Azure. So that means that we can create a zone redundant location, something useful for backup or business continuity. On the other hand, Amazon has a little bit more availability zones. When we talk availability zones, that's the second concept we can see here. When we talk about it, we're talking about creating a group of nearby locations so we can create, as I said, a disaster recovery plan, a continuity plan, a high availability, or a high resilience evaluation, okay? That's the option that we have. So the first comparison we can take here is regions, 30 against 14, okay? That doesn't mean that we have issues with the access, that we have speed issues, that we have access issues. No, everything works perfectly in both of the options. But that's the first thing we need to consider. The next thing we have here, this is something that we can only find when we talk about Azure, okay? The products, depending on the location that you are using to host your Azure solution, you will have different products available. It might sound funny, yes, but it's true. Amazon provides the exact same products and services in every zone they're using. On the other hand, Azure has some different capabilities. For example, when you create your first trial version, when you go for an Azure PaaS code, If you are located in India, in Pakistan, in Singapore, in Malaysia, any of that Asian part, you will be requested to present a different type of ID. Okay, you go for a trial version, you create a different product, and you can start playing with some of the different options that we have. For example, if you want to go for the Nano series, the N series, the one we have here, it can only be hosted in South Central US. We have something nearby Phoenix that can be used there to host an N series. If you want an N series that is basically a quantum computer, you can only host it in there. And that's how it plays, okay? It's not much of a difference. It's not much of a, as you can see here, when we talk about G, GS, H, and N, this type of computers we have here, we're talking about solutions that are meant to be used for high requirements, for computing requirements. On the other hand, well, as you can see, most of our regular series, we're talking about regular computers from a simple front-end client up to a powerful Windows server can be hosted in most of our locations. So it's important we consider this. We always keep this in mind because it might be a driver to take the final decision, the final call on the type of provider we want. Okay, that's the thing we need to remember. Something else we have, something called paired regions. Okay, depending on the type of subscription you get with Amazon and Azure, you can get something called redundancy. Okay, you get a computer today, you have a new location, location A, South Central US, and as part of the price included in your billing program, you will get a paired region if you want. You can select, okay, I want to have a second region as a backup. You will have different type of options there, like, okay, do you want to have writing and reading permissions, yes or no? Do you want to have a backup with a 99.95 SLA, yes or no? Those type of combinations will help. But the basic conceptualization of this slide is, we get region A, we get region B, we have two zones, and we have redundancy, okay? As part of a DR, as part of anything, any type of process we want to use, this is the recommendable solution. Okay, so try to always for different regions. We will check a little bit about computing on the third part of this model, so I'll keep you posted about those changes. But remember, that's something else we have in both geography covered as part of a pair solution. Okay, the next thing we have here, the access. How do we work? How do we use the front-end access of Azure against the Amazon one, the AWS? When we talk about Azure, we have an Active Directory solution. Okay, out of the box, we have the same technology we have had since 1997 called Active Directory, now combined with a cloud service that is the Azure AD. That will be the centerpiece of every solution based on Azure. So the way we have worked for the last 20 years can be fully compatible. Yes, we have tricks, we have some conceptualizations, we have stuff to cover first, but we can keep using the same fundamental base we have used. On the other hand, in Amazon, the thing is we can use a hosting directory service provided by Amazon that is compatible with a tweak of a centralization with on-prem Active Directories, or we can create an Active Directory server, use the role 2012, 2016, replicate our server and control it from Amazon. That's one of the main differences, guys, okay? Keep this one always as your first thing to consider. Azure Active Directory is a Microsoft technology fully compatible with the Active Directory technologies. Amazon will use a third-party connection or will host an Active Directory virtualized and host in the cloud. Okay, that's how you access and start working with the portals. We're going to see the portals, we're going to see a bit of access further on the road today, but that's the first thing we need to remember. The next thing we have, computing. When we talk about computing, the first option, based on what I've seen around the world in different type of consulting experiences, computing and backup are the main considerations to take the first step into the cloud. Okay, you start thinking about a continuity plan, a disaster recovery plan, just an enhanced security, and computing some services. When we talk about computing, we're talking about 60% of the services subscribed into Azure and Amazon. Okay, when I say computing, guys, when I'm talking about computing, I'm saying virtual machines in the cloud, servers and front-end clients. So we can create in any of the two providers, Azure and Amazon Web Services, services, we can create a complete solution for that. We can have a virtual host, our green box we have in here. We can create multiple drives if we need. We can create as many drivers, as many disks, as many storage locations as we want. And the good thing of computing, guys, we can have a shared location for storage, not only in Azure, also in AWS. That means we can create a central repository for storage, keep our disks in it, and then start sharing that with all the computers we have created. Okay, so think about centralizing all your resources. Think about like a Hyper-V technology, but now hosting the cloud with all the benefits of it. That's the computing part of it. That's the first thing we have. The next thing we can see here, networking. We're going to cover networking a little bit in detail further on the third part of this webinar, but as an introduction, networking in Azure and AWS, it's exactly the same functionality. We're going to see a comparison table of them, and you will see that the objects, just with a different naming convention, but at the end of the day, the solution is the same. We have the option of using services, of using hardware and software to create our network needs. We can go for internal and external routers, the same way you will do in any virtual solution. You can go for balancers included in all the price objects we have. And finally, you can create connections from on-prem locations or points into the cloud. Both solutions support this. We have something called ExpressRoute and we have something called direct access depending on the subscription. But I'll cover you those, I'll show you those, and you will see the difference between them. At the end of the day, when we talk about networking, there are slight differences there between the way the DNS are solved, between the way the records are registered, and between the way the domains are used. But the functionality and objects are no different from each other. Okay, that's something that we need to keep in there. The next thing we have here, the web applications. You may have heard about these different type of terms. We have here, as you can see, is the same slide that we had 2 slides ago, the virtual machine. Why? Because now we're focusing on this small blue box. Okay, we can create virtual application containers in the cloud, host them inside a virtual computer, or host them directly in the web application service. How this is useful? You can create docs, you can create multiple resources on the back to get all the accesses you need with enough capabilities to attend that. For example, you can create 5 Dockers to host all the estates and access through a web access. That's all you need. That's the good thing of the web app. That's an exposed scenario. If you go for something similar in Amazon, the diagram will be the same, except that the way we expose on the Dockers will vary depending on the type of application. If you're using a line of business application, if you're using a host cloud application, that will be a slight difference in there. But this is one of the services that we will find in both. Okay. And finally, guys, before we get into the mobile and some other stuff, we have the way of working with identity management and access. Okay. Both of our platforms, Azure and AWS, will support an MFA. That's the good thing. If you haven't heard of it, multi-factor authentication is basically presenting a second level of authentication when you're trying to access a resource, like using a phone call, using an SMS message, using an email, using a third-party application or an authentication application. Both of them will support this. Differences, key concepts to keep in mind in here. Azure, as I was mentioning, has Azure Active Directory. That service, synchronized with a federation, synchronized with an on-prem Active Directory, can be enhanced with tokens and claims. We can use NTLM, we can use Kerberos on-prem, and use that to enhance our authentication. On the other hand, we don't have that service in Amazon, but we have the option of providing an access through a virtual computer hosting an Active Directory role in the cloud. If we do that, we can create the same federation and connect through the web application, through the front-end virtual machine in the cloud to the on-prem Active Directory. The functionality, just to keep it simple here, the functionality will be the same for you, but the way of working is a virtual machine or a direct service in Azure. Okay, those are the things we need to remember in here. The next thing we have here, mobile. When we talk about mobiles, we have access to the mobile platforms of both without any third-party application. As long as we have the proper credentials, we can create a token and we can access from any type of mobile device. That's a good thing. What's the difference when we talk about front-end functionality for mobile? We can provide something called mobile web applications, mobile services, mobile hosting from Azure. On the other hand, in Amazon, we have the capability of creating a mobile hub. Okay, functionality, front-end user experience won't be affected. It will be the same. The way, guys, we have to work with it will be the one driving us to decide if mobile is a critical driver for the decision. If it is, then we need to stick to any of those options. We need to decide, okay, how do we want to control the mobile access? We want to have a mobile application, create a front-end API, and then connect through any device. Great, let's go for Azure. No, wait, I want to centralize everything in a content hub. I want to have a direct access for Amazon Web Services, and then I want to provide all the users with a credential and a password. Okay, then let's go for AWS. Okay, those are the options we have. When we talk about mobile, we're talking about a complete and complex topic because we can get 2 or 3 weeks of training only for mobile management in the cloud. It's important we understand this. Why? Just to complete this one. We need to consider an MVM if mobile is going to be a critical player in the organization. If that's the decision, Amazon has compatibility with any MVM in the market. We can use AirWatch, we can use Citrix One, we can use Intune, we can use Mobile Iron. Okay. On the other hand, in Amazon, sorry, in Azure, out of the box, we have full compatibility with all the services provided by our MDM, Microsoft Intune. Okay, so keep those two in mind, and that will be also a decision player in there. Data management, guys. How do we work with the data management? This is one of the big differences we can find between them both. When we talk about Azure, we have the option of using storage accounts. We have the option of using virtual hard drive extensions, VHD, VHDS, and VHDX with the Generation 2 support now. So we can combine systems with Hyper-V and online cloud systems. Great. What happens if you don't have on-prem based on Microsoft? If you're using Linux, if you're using MacOS, if you're using a Solaris system or something else, this might not be then a benefit. Okay, you might not get a full advantage from Azure. Amazon, on the other hand, has the capability of storing any type of extension without actually having to decode the way the file was created. So in Amazon, we get, just think about a drop-off storage location. We can get all our data in there and synchronize and access through all the other assets. On Azure, going back a little bit, we have that capability, retrocompatibility to on-prem services and technologies, and also we have the option of creating different type of locations. We can create tables that will work as a non-SQL table. It will work, just think about, to keep it simple, as an spreadsheet in the cloud without the front end of Excel. We can use that. We can manage blobs. I don't know if you have seen blobs or you have learned a little bit about blobs in the past. We have blob storage available in both Azure and Amazon, so we can create really robust solutions to keep a lot of data in a single location from a really cheap price. Okay. We also have vaulting services and coding services for our data. But both of the platforms will have the same type of capabilities, except, as I said, the compatibility with on-prem solutions. And finally, for this introduction, we have the big data and the big computing. Okay. What happens, guys, if we have a requirement about using multiple quantum computers to provide a single service, multiple endpoints on the back to create a front-end solution? What happens if we need to have a complete high availability scenario with multiple sets of data in a single front-end storage? All those options are fully compatible using something called HD Insight. Okay, HD Insight is a third-party let's say solution, completely authorized and embedded into the Microsoft systems of Azure that can be used to create any type of bulk processing need we have. So we get a really big benefit from there. In Amazon, we can create an integration with Hadoop and HD Insights, but it's not an out-of-the-box integration. That's the difference in there. So this one we're seeing here, from the first moment you log in into the portal, you will have total access and control. If you want to do the same in Amazon, it's possible, yes, but you will need to have a third-party integration or create your own line of business integration with the HD Insights, okay? That's a slight difference on the computing. And then containers, well, containers are available. Containers are completely available in any of the two platforms. We don't have any type of issue there. So we can create multiple hosts and we can create multiple endpoint solutions. So the client, as we can see here, can access a single interface. This is fully compatible out of the box in both platforms, okay? So then here we have a second comparison. We have a direct access to the containers and the technology in any of the two solutions. Finally, in here we have backups. Backups, as I was mentioning, guys, it might be the first call to decide to move into the cloud, okay? A lot of my friends, a lot of my customers, a lot of the guys who have been dealing with my trainings and everything during these years might be deciding to jump into the cloud because of a backup need, okay? We have two different options, okay? We have backup in Azure for continuity and disaster recovery plan, or we have backup only as a drop-off location. On Amazon, we have the same with a slight difference in here. Azure has a direct agent that can be used on-prem. Azure has a complete compatibility with everything that we can use in Hyper-V. We can back up Hyper-V, VMware, vSphere, and even a little bit of Citrix directly into Azure. We can use the out-of-the-box agent and create the backup solutions. In Amazon, if we want to do something similar to that, we need to use the Amazon agent and then configure exceptions in our security policies so we can reach the Amazon Vault. That's the only difference. Both of the backup services, guys, will have the same functionality. You can use policies, you can use shells, you can use it on demand, and you can use them both as continuity and disaster recovery plans. Okay, so both services are there. Both platforms can host a complete backup solution with those slight differences like the agent, like the third-party agent, and like Acronix. Okay, that's the final service we have to compare. Now, let's get into the actual comparison tables. Okay, so we can take a look in here. The first thing that we can have here, computing. That was the first thing we discussed. When we talk about computing, guys, we can create virtual machines in both on-prem, online, Amazon, and Azure. Great. What's the difference? What can we get in here? The first thing you will notice here, there is actually quite a big notice, it's the memory limit. Okay, as you can notice in here, we have the double capacity of gigabytes in random access memory and units available in Azure. In Amazon, we can create two instances with a single front end to get from here to here, but it's not a single unit solution. Okay, the limits of the CPU, we have a little bit more capabilities in Amazon. As you can see here, we have something like 30% more capability in Amazon. So if we're needing something for CPU processing, maybe that will be a decision to go into Amazon. Okay, if the CPU limit is not a driver for us, well, we can still keep deciding. And the templates, this is important. On the templates, we have almost the same number. The only difference we have, there is a retrocompatibility version of an old Windows server that is not available in Amazon. Everything else, guys, Windows Server 28, 2012, 2016, SQL 28, 2016, 2017 available now, can be used in both. Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7 is compatible with both. Both of them have exactly the same distributions of Linux and Unix, so there is no difference in there on the templates. So this one might not be a driver. To be honest, I cannot imagine a complete scenario based on that single template. Just think about the processing needs and think about the capabilities you want to have before deciding. That's the first one we have. The next one we have here, the open software, the OSS. How do we use the OSS on Azure? Do we have the option of using it, yes or no? Azure has complete integration capabilities with open source software. Amazon does too. What's the difference in there? That we cannot create Dockers, we cannot create a complete repository solution on the back based on GitHub, based on MSDN on Amazon. We can only reach that in Azure. Okay, that's one of the differences we have. How do we map the skills between one and another? Okay, for example, let's use geolocation. You can see we have the exact same term. There is no difference in there. What happens when we're talking about infrastructure as code? Okay, we have resource manager. This is our front-end GUI that we can use to control our objects. If we talk about Amazon, we have a complete different terminology that is cloud formation. This is just a small comparison table about the common concepts that we may find between one and another. How do we access, for example, the container, the building container? We have an account or we have a subscription. We can have different type of accounts. We can have different type of subscriptions. The principal, the almighty admin, the top level user, we have a root account in here that can only be one, and then you can replicate sub-root accounts in Amazon, while we have account admin, we have subscription admin, and we can have 2 account administrators in Azure. Okay, those are some of the slight difference when we talk about skills. We will see a little bit more on the comparisons. That's what's coming now. So let's take a look on a specific comparison tables between one another. So all the things I've been saying for the last 25 minutes can be seen now in a direct table. The first thing we have, terminology, front-end terminology. Computers. You're not gonna find virtual machine terms in Amazon. You will always see EC2. If you wanna go for virtual networks, you will have VPC. If you ask me, and it's not that I'm up to you for using Azure instead of Amazon, Amazon uses a lot of acronyms. Microsoft does too, but Microsoft does that for all the technologies. Amazon Web Services has a lot of different acronyms meant to be representing the exact same functionality that we have in Azure. Something that is quite important, for example, here, direct connection against ExpressRoute. Okay, that's quite important. Why? A direct connect service in Azure will represent a point-to-point, a point-to-site, will represent a specific set of settings available in the firewall, in the ports, in all the security network you have, and then create the connection. If you say direct connect referring to AWS, we're talking about a complete tunneling service to connect a site with Amazon. So that's something we need to keep always in mind. Direct connect can be ambiguous if we use it in different platforms. Everything else we're seeing here, for example, EVS, S3, and Glacier, is a storage account. We have a storage drop-off location in here, and all the objects can be sent in there. It's exactly the same functionality. This is the first thing we have, terms. There is a link about extra content on the terminology. Further on the road, you are going to have access. Well, you already have access to the PDF, so feel free to check there because you will have a total and complete definition of each of these terms. Okay. The next thing we have on the computers, I was mentioning, we have virtual machines against EC2. Okay, those are the options or the way we're going to refer to them depending on the platform. We have standard storage. This is something important. When we create a computer in Azure, we get a VHD that can be downloaded and used in Hyper-V, using VMware, using vSphere. In here, we have volumes fully compatible with the Amazon services. But if you want to do the same, like download it and using it, you need to go for a third-party software to create a compatibility version. Okay, that's something we need to think about. The storage is fully compatible with on-prem technologies in Azure, while the Amazon one has a little bit more encryption. It's a little bit safer on the encryption levels, but it's only compatible out of the box with the Amazon services. Something else we have here that can be used a little bit different, the extensions. We have virtual machine extensions. If you want to create an agent because you're using Acronis on-prem, online, and you want to keep that computer under the Acronis extension, you need to go and create something. If you want to go and create a customized, let's think about scheduled task that should create a backup and then create a storage point from your computer every once in a while, you can create an extension. Great. If you want to do the same in Amazon, you need to use the data scripts. It's exactly the same with the same extensions and same compatibility levels, except the naming convention is not the same. Okay, it's important we understand that. There is not much of a difference in there, except that the VM extension can use Microsoft technologies that you are hosting on-prem. Amazon will have to use online solutions, like the Acronis one I mentioned, like if you are using, think about a system center solution in the cloud, stuff like that can be considered differently in both. Okay, so this is about virtual computers. Now, a comparison table about storage, guys. We have the naming convention, storage, and S3. Both of them use for bluff. I don't know if you have heard the term or you have read about bluffs. Bluffs mean binary large objects. We're talking about large amount of data in a single location. It can be a database, it can be a multimedia file. The idea is that we are not downloading, uploading, and working with tons and tons of data if it's not needed. That's why we have the bluff. Both technologies can support bluff management. Small differences between one another. Amazon has cool, hot, and spare hot access. Okay, that means that you have the data at rest, you have a regular base access, let's say twice a week, or you have the spare hot that it's supposed to be used daily, or maybe twice or 3 times per day. In Microsoft Azure, we only have hot and cold. Okay, that means at rest, or on the wire. So it depends on the type of bluff management you want. That might be also be a driver. Something else we have there, file storage. Both of them can be used as any type of file storage solution. Okay, if you have used a file storage in the past, a file server, a file share, think about a similar functionality in both. No difference at all. The same type of exposure, the same type of security, because we're using a cloud host location. Okay, we have an option, and this is something that we don't have in Amazon, that it's called the site recovery. Okay, site recovery, think about it as a backup or continuity plan, a business continuity plan that goes specifically assigned to the storage account we created. So we create a storage account today with 1 terabyte. We have 1 terabyte of data there. Something happened. There is a natural disaster and there is no access to the data center. We have site recovery availability service included in the storage. We don't have that in Amazon. If we want to have something similar, we need to go directly into the backup services. Okay. On the other hand, we have Glacier. This option can be quite useful if you're storing all data. Okay, it's really cheap. It's actually for long-term storage is the cheapest solution in the market. Okay, that means that let's use a real-world example. For all the UK transactions that are related to collections, if there is a phone call or there is an SMS, because of a governmental rule, the company needs to have at least 10 years of history. Okay, so if I perform a call today, I need to keep it there until 2028. Great, that's going to be Glacier. Okay, you're not going to access that data anymore unless you need it in the future for something legal or for some processes. It might not even be accessed during the 10 years. You can subscribe to a Glacier storage account. That's a benefit that we have now in Amazon that is not available in Azure. Okay, those are the only 2 key players in here: site recovery included and the Glacier for long-term cheap storage. Okay, this is the second comparison table we have. The next one we have is networking. When we talk about networking, we have exactly same functionality except for the point-to-site VPN. There is no option of creating a VPN connection between a single client to your complete site in Azure, in Amazon, sorry. You can do that in Azure. You can create a VPN, select Julio's computer, connect from my computer to any site as long as I have a connection and my proper credentials. If I want to do the same, I have no options of doing that directly in Amazon. Needs to be a site to site. Everything else, IPs, balancers, firewalls, reverse application proxies, DNS resolution is exactly the same. Okay. An SLA comparison, as you can see, when we talk about services and computing, we have the same. there is not much of a difference there. We don't have traffic manager. I don't know if you have heard of this type of service, traffic manager. It's basically a virtual balancer inside the computer. It's a service that works as a network load balancer. We don't have that in Amazon, and we don't have the Route 53. Route 53, it's also an encoding service to protect the connection. So this is a little bit of difference between one another. The storage has exactly the same SLA, there is no difference in there. And when we talk about CloudFront or CDN, when we talk about CloudFront, we're talking about the level of exposure we're using. And on CDN in Azure, we're talking about the type of exposure for our services or computing solutions. So these two are the same, similar functionality concepts, except that each of those is completely part of Microsoft or Amazon, and both of them with 99.9. So as you can see, when we talk about the SLAs, we're not that far away from each other. We have the exact same type of locations and solutions, except on the networking features, okay? Subscriptions. When we talk about subscriptions, we already saw that at the beginning of this comparison tables list. The account. When we talk about an account in Amazon, that is your subscription. If you go and create an Amazon Prime account today as a front-end user, and then you want to extend that account as an enterprise agreement, you can do something similar to that. That's the way of working with Amazon. In Azure, you work based on a subscription. It's the billing container, the front-end functionality is exactly the same, except that we have different type of benefits with those based on the other services provided by the both of the companies. Okay, the admin and the root account are the almighty users. Those will be in charge of everything. We have, as I was mentioning, Azure Active Directory, completely compatible with Active Directory domain services on-prem. This is the same technology on-prem and in the cloud. And Amazon Directory Service is a third-party directory that will need an integration point in here to get into the on-prem. That's the difference when we talk about security and object management. Something else that you might want to consider here before I move on. Amazon has full support and compatibility for all the Microsoft platforms, but you need to create a federation to reach that. If you want to go into Office 365, if you want to go into Microsoft Intune, if you want to go into Microsoft 365, you need to create an integration point with a federation service. If you use Azure, you already have the out-of-the-box integration for that. Okay, a best practice recommendation will be, if you're already working with Office 365, Windows 10, Active Directory on-prem, it might be a little bit better for you to go for Azure. Why? Because of the out-of-the-box solutions. Okay. The management and organization, as we saw, we have regions in both. We have different regions in each of the two solutions. We have a little bit more in Azure. On the management portal, both of them have the same portal, well, the same type of web-based access portal. We have one that is called console, the other one portal, but the access is the same. We're going to see a little bit difference there because the management console of Amazon, it's completely based on web. You can use some automation and some line of business solutions, while Azure has a complete compatibility that can be used with Bash and PowerShell. Okay, that's something different we have there for management. We need to use here the PowerShell client or the Amazon PowerShell client. Tags are available in both. Resource Manager, that is our top level container for the assets, is available in both. And the only difference we have here is the type of integration. We can extend Azure with System Center, and if we want to do the same with Amazon, the same way we have seen with all the other technologies, we need to create an integration point in a computer. Okay, everything else is exactly the same and reachable. The billing process. This might be your key driver to decide. Amazon bills per hour, okay? Azure bills per minute, okay? What's the difference here? You will say, well, 60 minutes, an hour, it's not much. Well, Azure can have a prepaid or a monthly subscription. Amazon only works on pay-as-you-go. Okay, so if you want to have total control and pay only for the things you're consuming without thinking about a further budget, maybe this will be your best solution. On the other hand, Azure can have those solutions, prepaid and monthly. I'm going to share it with you. Well, you already have, sorry, the PDF. Feel free to play with the calculators. Those two addresses we have there are completely free. You can access there. You can evaluate any type of service in both. You will get a pre-evaluation. You will be able to see the price between and the comparison and decide the best solution. Something else important here, the models, okay? If you want to have on demand, great, we have them in both. If you want to have a reserve solution, that it's similar to say, okay, I want to work for 6 months with this type of subscription, you can get it in both. What happens if you want to go for a long-term commitment? Think about 5-year subscription, 10-year subscription, 10 years support for the version of the software and the operating system you're using. You can only get that in here, okay? Amazon has reserved for as long as 36 months. That's the top you can get here. Okay. After that, there are special exceptions that you can go, but it needs to be a complete enterprise agreement level. While in Azure, you can reach that if you want from the first moment. So those are the differences here. To be honest, guys, all the things we have seen might be important or no for the final decision call. But when we talk about billing and we talk about the models, you might be seeing here the actual final topic to get. Okay. Amazon will send you a direct access to the portal. You will get a bill. You will be able to consume there. While Azure has direct access to something called Azure Billing Portal. Okay. When we talk about the Azure Billing Portal, is something we have here. This is a screenshot of it. You can see a complete detail of every single object and asset and how much money has been consumed by each of those. Okay. You can export this and you can create your own report, synchronizing this as part of a database with reporting services. SQL Server 2014, SQL Server 2016, fully compatible with the export solution of the billing portal. Amazon can get you customized dashboards, but has no integration with the reporting services. Okay, that's how you can keep track of it. The open source. When we talk about open source, Microsoft has been quite improved. It has been trying to reach a really good level of balance with Linux solutions. Okay, if you go today into Azure and you try to compare with the Azure we had 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the functionalities and solutions we have for Linux users or Linux needs are far more than the ones that we have seen in the last 3 years. Okay, so it's a really good benefit because we get a lot of different discounts, a lot of different technologies and solutions to administrate our Linux platforms. So we have something called GitHub, as I was mentioning at the beginning, the one we have here. Feel free to access there. You can check for all the out-of-the-box compatibility solutions we get for Linux. Okay, anything that you want to use, anything that you want to apply for Linux in the cloud or for Linux on-prem can be used through Azure. Amazon Web Services has 75% of compatibility compared with this. Why? Because of the enterprise agreement between the different distributions. The distributions are the same. The same distributions we have in Amazon are the same distributions we have in Azure. The difference there, guys, always keep that in mind, are the level of compatibility with the third-party solutions and the open source software. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, the support we have here, we can go back and use any type of repository as long as Microsoft has a backup for it. As you can see here, these are just examples. We have a Red Hat solution for Azure. If you want to go there, you can download scripts, you can download functionality tasks, you can download extensions that can be used with Red Hat servers if you want to host them in the cloud. You can create web applications based for Red Hat in the cloud and access them from on-prem. All those type of solutions, guys, I'm not saying here that Azure is better than Amazon, okay? What I'm saying here is that the enterprise agreement that Microsoft has reached negotiating with the different distributions is a little bit more complex than the one that Amazon has. Okay, so if you have a completely open source solution based business process, you might want to go for Azure or give it a try with some options that we have in GitHub, some options we have on the DBA management, and you will see the type of benefits you can get. Amazon, again, going a little bit back, Amazon has also full support for open source software. There are some exclusions and exceptions, like the Red Hat solutions, that you won't find using Amazon. Okay, those are the little bit difference that we can find in here. Third-party support that we have for open source software, we can use PHP, we can use Java, we can use Python. Okay, we can use MySQL, you can use Hadoop, you can use Bonglu, you can use a lot of different database solutions. You can use Apache and Tomcat. That's one of the best benefits we get if we're using third-party technologies. And you can use WordPress. These guys, these are support in both. Okay, these are support in Amazon and Azure. There are no exclusions, there are no differences in here. When we talk about open source and Linux endorsed for Azure, we have the exact same things, except that we get the node.js. If you have used the node.js, I will recommend that you consider that as a driver for your open source requirements. If you haven't, we're basically talking about something here that is used to create customized solutions using computing services. So if you have something like that, I'm going to show you a little bit of an example of a Node.js script at the end of the training today. So you will be able to see and decide, okay, I need to use something like that for my open source needs. Great, I should go then for Azure. Okay. Our virtual computers, as we were seeing, we have the exact same front end. We have VHDs on the back. The only difference is the type of integration, as we mentioned. We can use this, and I'm still talking a little bit about open source. We can have a front-end virtual machine with any of the Linux distribution available using our third-party solutions in the back. This is a regular front end. We can create a Red Hat. Let's use here an extension, and we can create here for the front-end user a complete shell tasks that will be creating a backup for that Red Hat solution. Okay, so now using an extension that is compatible with Azure services, we can reach a security level a little bit, let's say, better than the one we will get in Amazon. Why? Because we're using a Red Hat extension that is only available for Microsoft Azure users. Okay, that's a real-world example on how you might want to decide to go for something like that. Some considerations when we talk about this. This is something important because Amazon has not much of a naming convention restrictions like the ones we have in here, is that the way we name and the convention that we use for naming can be a player in the way the computer is accessed. Okay, based on the type of using the customized DNS that Azure provides when you create a computer and a virtual network, the naming convention, if it's properly exposed or it's behind of an ad or it's been NAT or something, can impact on the front-end performance. If you have a complex name resolution, let's think about 24 characters. Okay, we have 10 computers with only a slight difference with the number. We have the same name with different numbering convention. Great. We have now a complex solution. When we have resources attached to those computers, let's think about a storage account on the back with some virtual hard drives being shared by the computers, the resolution process of the DNS can take a little bit more than it will take on a regular naming convention. This might not be even noticeable for a front-end user, but when we talk about time and computing times, we might be seeing something that might be a decision maker. Okay, those are some small considerations, guys. It's just an introduction to the consideration. And when we talk about billing, this is something important because on Amazon, I'll just explain you the difference. When we're working in Azure, if we have a computer up and running, the computer is billed. Okay, we need to pay for that computer. If we stop the machine, but the computer is not deallocated, we have an option to deallocate directly from the portal, the computer is still being charged. Okay, that means that we're still paying for that one. If the computer gets stopped and we deallocate it, we won't pay for that. Amazon, if it's running, you're paying. If it's stopped, you're not paying. That's all. You don't need to deallocate. That's a slight difference we have there on the billing purposes. So you will see once you get into Amazon and Azure that you have tasks, automated solutions, and out-of-the-box jobs to start and stop in Amazon Well, you can only stop in Azure, okay? You can create customized solutions to start over again, but out of the box, you can only stop with those jobs. So those are some of the differences we have when modeling. When we talk about the access, the virtual machine model is straightforward for Amazon. We have a single resource manager model that it's meant to be used as an object. Great. When we talk about Azure, if you have used or you have seen Azure and you were using that around 2012, 2013, when we got the first beta versions, and then 2015 with the first classic portal, we had something that had focused on each of the objects. We had no resource groups. We had no way of containing the objects. We had a Silverlight portal. You just think about that, try to think that and think about Silverlight being the main frame for the portal. And we were using that for all our management models. That used to be the old way of working. It's still there. We can still use it if we need it for retrocompatibility purposes, but now we have both of the front ends. On the other hand, as I said, AWS will always be working with a management model. So we have containers, objects, and front-end solutions. How do we see the computers between one another? The difference between them two. As I was mentioning at the beginning, everything, as you can see, seems quite similar. Differences there, well, the terminology, some of the names and the name conventions, but the objects are the same if we keep it from here to here. When we get into the storage, as I mentioned, we're talking about using VHDs. We're using virtual hard drive files. We can download them, we can upload our own drives, and we can play with them as if they were a Hyper-V extension file. While in Amazon, you will have your volumes. The volumes are not compatible with VHD management. This one, guys, might also be a decision maker, okay? You need to be quite sure about how do you want to work with the drives and the storage. If you want to download and upload a VHD, you can go for this. If you have an on-prem Hyper-V that you want to have compatible with Azure, you need to go for this. If that's not something that is worrying you, this might be your option, okay? That's the comparison. Our virtual network between one another, well, as we already discussed, we have a front-end virtual network access as long as we have an internet access point and the infrastructure is on the back. We can create as many virtual networks and soft networks as we need and then use them for internal or external purposes. We can have internal and public load balancers to keep this access. So Arturo access from here, it's balanced by the public balancer. I've sent to this computer, then I create a task or a request and I can get to my internal database. This type of process is fully compatible in both scenarios, Amazon and Azure, okay? Some of our definitions, the address space and the subnets are exactly the same objects that we have used since 1993 when we start using network conventions. When we talk about DNS servers, this is a little bit different because in Amazon, you can create every single DNS you want to use and customize from scratch, okay? In Azure, you get a complete set of DNS provided by Azure that you can use, or you can change that too, but that's the difference in here. When we talk about network objects, Amazon will give you the option of starting from scratch. Azure will give you an out-of-the-box set of custom DNSs that you can use or you can replace with your own needs. Okay, that's when we are creating something we need to remember. The virtual network can be connected on-prem. Both of our network, guys, both of our clouds can be used from on-prem. I'm going to show you a little bit of accesses right away. But we have here, we have the on-prem network always available for both. There are no differences in here, guys, okay? We can access from any of the two platforms directly into our on-prem. The infrastructure, as we saw, is exactly the same that we were seeing on the virtual network, except that if we create an on-prem integration, now we have the option, as we can see here, of connecting using ExpressRoute. Okay, remember what I was mentioning, and remember that's quite important and quite sensitive. Direct access against ExpressRoute. ExpressRoute is tunneling multiple connections, so we create a site-to-site that can be accessed from here to any of my services. If I have, as you can see, Office 365, CRM Dynamics, SharePoint, Project, Sky for Business, I have all the Azure solutions, maybe Azure might be your call. Why? Because you have the same type of identity process and management that can be controlled from here. Okay, that's the ExpressRoute. Direct access for Amazon works exactly the same, except that we don't have this identity management for Microsoft platforms. Okay, types of connection, as I was mentioning, we have point-to-point, we have a point-to-site, site-to-site, we can see here, and we have a cloud exchange if we want. We can go from cloud to cloud without touching any type of on-prem solution. Okay, those are our options that we have here to interact from any type of connection. As you can see here, guys, now we have a comparison table. You can see capabilities we have in Amazon. We have security groups in both. Great, we can create softnets, but we can create virtual machines as part of the security groups. Great. We have Cloud Hub. We don't have that one here. Cloud Hub is creating a centralized repository to create the network resources. That's not compatible with Azure. Okay. We have hybrid connection. As I was mentioning, we have point-to-point, point-to-site, site-to-site in Azure. We only have site-to-site in here, okay? Or we can use direct connect if we want to create the tunnel. But that's the main difference in here, guys. There is no way of creating a direct access from a computer or a specific client to our whole network, okay? That's something to remember. The overview of the resource management. Let me get you here. Resource management, it's the containing way of working with Amazon and in Azure services. When we talk about Azure services in resource management, we're talking about every single object being hosted by a top-level container to make an easier management process. When we talk about resource manager in Amazon, we're talking about containing all my group of objects in different type of security levels. Okay, those are the resource managers. We're going to check now in here how a resource manager can be used to create a complete solution based on a security definition for all the needs we have. As you can see here, my resource manager will give me all my objects. Think about this as containers, and then we have objects in it. We can create a different level of security here that will require different type of authentication permissions to get into the on-prem. Behind a federation service, we can synchronize, as I was mentioning, AAD with ADDS, okay? So now we have a complete solution based on the exact same technology. The resource groups, as part of an inherit object of the resource manager, it's basically a child object container where we can create regions. We can use it for budget holders. We can use it for different departments. Okay, that way you can know who is building what, who is receiving what. Okay, to retrieve them, take a look on this and use it at your own will when you're testing. You can use PowerShell to check all the resource and all the objects available in your subscription. Okay, the template deployment. This is one of the main differences, guys. When we talk about template deployment, Amazon has compatibility to use on-prem templates and get them in the cloud. Azure can use GitHub, Azure can use MSDN to retrieve templates and deploy anything you're using. When we talk about templates, we can use it for computing, for applications, and expose services. Okay, so I would recommend templates has a 3 days class, so feel free to take a look on that one because that one might take a little bit longer. This is what I was mentioning about resource management. This is how a GA7 template works. You can see here an example of all the things that we have. So let me complete this. This is the final part of our model. We can see here we have the tags. The tags, as the name suggests, is to create naming conventions that can be used for any object that we want to have. We can tag them and we can track them down exactly the same way in both. And finally, you can create a complete visual map of it. So that's how it works. This is a visual map on how the resource will be seen, and we can keep working with this in both of the scenarios. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Sorry I took a little bit more time than expected, but that's all the official content we have. Remember, take a look on all the links we have on the PDF. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julio. That was very informative. And as we celebrate our 20th anniversary, we are here to serve you with the best in-class IT and business certification training. We were going to bring you an unbeatable 20th year celebration offer this month to make your learning even more fantastic. We are offering up to 50% off on some of our popular courses. NetCom Learning does offer a comprehensive portfolio for cloud courses, which you can see right up there on your screen. So definitely check those out before you log off today. And team training can be customized and accelerated to meet your organization's specific needs. You can contact us today to be connected to one of our learning consultants to help advise you on your specific needs, or email us at webinar.com, learning@learning.com, or you can simply search our catalog at netcomlearning.com. And we all know that technical skills are necessary to empower our careers, but do you need to improve or upgrade your leadership skills as well in order to accelerate your career? Along with your technical abilities, develop the skills you need to manage yourself, others, and business better. Welcome to Sartor Learning, a collaborative knowledge platform bringing the world's best business and leadership insights from Fortune 1000 leaders, best-selling authors, and Ivy League professors. Further, if you are interested in learning from the top American leaders, please log on to the e-learning platform at sartorlearning.com and avail the special promotion meant for first-time users. You can use coupon code SARTOR10 and begin your leadership journey now. And right now we are going to launch a quick poll to find out how many of you might be interested in taking some additional training. So please just take a few moments to fill that out before you log off. In addition, we do have a lot more informative webinars coming up, so please go to netcomlearning.com/webinars in order to register. And don't forget to like and follow our social media pages to get the latest technology updates. Please refer to the GoToWebinar chat window for all of our links. We want to thank all of you for joining us today, and if you do come up with any additional questions, feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we look forward to seeing you back here with us soon. Feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our webinars and other courses. Have a great day, everyone.